Hi, my name is Megan, and I'm going to be fighting to legalize prostitution. Three main points of our speech today is going to be legalizing prostitution actually is safer for women, it provides more revenue for the state, and saves the state a lot of money. I'm going to start with the basic definition of prostitution. The dictionary definition of prostitution is the practice or occupation of engaging in sexual activity with someone for payment. According to an interview conducted by Business Insider, all the women they interviewed were passionate about expressing their support for the law. All the women that were interviewed were retired actual prostitutes, and they were interviewed basically, their interviewer basically asked them if they were okay with the way prostitution is held. And their most common response was, we would prefer it to be legalized because it would be protection for us. Moralists refuse to acknowledge that one must sell themselves in the marketplace to survive. According to David Rosen, who is a PhD professor, the decriminalization of commercial sex would expose the hypocrisy inherent in the effects to suppress as opposed to regulate consensual and age-appropriate commercial sex engagements. In other words, Rose is saying that by keeping prostitution illegal, it is hurting the young people of today rather than helping them. This helps me talk about my first point, which is that prostitution actually makes women safer. According to Billy J. Long, who is a PhD professor of criminal justice, he stated that these helpless victims are viewed with pity while the evil male oppressor is castigated for stooping to the depths of depravity and paying for sex for cash. This is a fallacious and widely inaccurate allegation. Quite the contrary, actually. After legalizing and normalizing of private prostitution, more women will feel empowered to perceive their activities not as degrading or demeaning, but rather uplifting and beneficial. So basically what Dr. Long is saying is that by making it legalized, he is allowing these women a platform to basically speak about their experiences and go into the police station and tell them if they've been treated wrong. Dr. Long is also saying that once prostitution is legalized, it gives a voice to these women and inspires them to speak out against any problems that they might be encountering. If prostitution is to stay illegalized, then it silences a woman without giving them a voice to speak. Because prostitution is criminalized in every state, sex workers are pushed onto the street, leaving too many of the whims of pimps and dangerous jobs without access to police protection and labor representation. If prostitution was legalized, workers would be able to access police protection and labor representation. There would be a safe place for them to be. In addition, if only the practice was brought indoors, sex workers could have more freedom to perform on their own terms in a legal environment. This was a statement given by NYLN.org by a former prostitute. She was talking about how whatever problems they might be facing. In countries such as Germany and New Zealand, sex workers is actually legalized. Occupational health and safety laws protect sex workers to make it even more safe. These brothels screen clients and use credit cards to make sure all the transactions are safe and have records. In these countries, it is shown that violence against them has decreased. For the second part of this topic, legalizing prostitution would actually provide more revenue for the state. In Nevada, legal brothels make around $50 million a year and pay significant amounts of tax to the rural counties in which they are located and operate. In Atlanta, a staggering $290 million was made by brothels and other agencies specializing in prostitution. By just looking at the numbers, we can already tell that this would be a significant amount of money that would be taxed and would turn into revenue for the state. Many might argue that the brothels and other institutions might want to keep it illegal, that way they can avoid paying taxes. However, according to an article I found on Business Insider, brothel owners have a clear interest in maintaining their image as law-abiding, trouble-free businesses to keep their licenses and maintain good relations within their communities. As I read on the article, the brothel owners ensure safety by making it a policy to call the police at the slightest hint of trouble to send a message that they don't tolerate bad behavior. Finally, the state doesn't have to waste their resources on prosecuting prostitutes for no reason. According to another article on Al Jazeera, Texas is estimated to $6.5 million a year to keep prostitutes behind bars. This is a ridiculous amount of money and resources spent on something that shouldn't be considered a crime. In addition, the police spent a great deal of time, money, and resources in an attempt to disrupt prostitution. If prostitution were to be legalized, it could save money and more time addressing more pressing matters such as terrorism. I'm going to Alan Dershowitz, a Harvard law professor. The surveillance and undercover tactics that are more appropriate for trapping terrorists than trapping Johns. So basically, they're allocating all these resources and going undercover and spending a ton of money on people going undercover and finding, basically people who employ prostitutes, rather than spending those resources, spending that time, spending that money to, finding terrorists for the country. He believes that these women who choose should not be victimized and be able to make their own choices. So one of the most basic things that we are battling today is choices with these women, and how prostitution is a choice. As I stated earlier in my first part of my speech, was that these girls are making the choices to be prostitutes. This is not something that they're forced into. And if this is a choice that they want to make, then they should be able to make that choice. Thank you.